talking about in Africa where he went, years ago, because he's been all around the world looking for dinosaur bones. He went into this one village, and they told him that recently one of the hunters went out to kill a pig. He saw a pig. He had a spear. He threw the spear. No, he didn't throw the spear. He saw the pig, and about the same time he was getting ready to throw the spear, a miniature, 10-foot high T-Rex grabbed the pig. He threw the spear and took off running. And he went back and he told the villagers what he saw. They didn't believe him. The next morning they went out. They could smell a horrible smell. And there it was, a miniature T-Rex. In its mouth was a pig. But there's been so many reports of this, or in the Amazon, all kinds of places. And people have asked me, well, why aren't these T-Rexes or dinosaurs, why aren't they full size? As I was explained by a scientist that's on my show, that it's no way they could be full size like they were originally because the oxygen content would not support their growth. So I don't know. I do believe that we do have these, cryptic dinosaurs running around some parts of the world.
Well, I do believe there are a lot of things out there we just don't know about. These tales coming from the deepest parts of Africa, these brontosaurus type animals or winged pterosaur type beings as well. Yeah, they have come. They have been a staple of African cryptozoology for years now, and there have been a lot of expeditions that have been conducted as well. So some of the stories coming out of Africa are pretty interesting, and I have no doubt there very well may be something there we just don't know about.
Well, again, like when I ran into my Bigfoot up in the Canadian Rockies, I wasn't looking for a Bigfoot. We were out there just taking pictures, and then we accidentally ran across one. I think a lot of people, they get, there's no such thing. I've been out looking for Bigfoot for years. I never saw one. You know what? It's just, if you're out looking for something, I think it's very rare. I don't think there's a huge population of them or of a lot of these cryptids. If you're out looking for them, you're never going to find them. Like, I know a guy who's been every year going out looking for Thunderbird, never found one. He claims he found traces, but he's never found one. Well, how many Thunderbirds are going to be, flying around where you're going to go out and look for one and find one?
Yeah, it's like anything else. I mean, very rarely you go out looking, you're going to find anything. I hear people all the time talking about that they're Bigfoot hunting and they're going, they just never see it. It's not like what you see on TV that every time you go out looking for a ghost, you're going to see one, or you go out looking for a Bigfoot, you're going to run across one. It doesn't work out like that. I've been fortunate enough to be able to see a few things in my life, but, it just doesn't work out that way.
Well, when you saw your Bigfoot, can you describe what it looked like? I'm going to tell you what I saw. Okay, I saw something around 7 feet or 8 feet in height, about around 500 or 600 pounds. It ran after us, not on just two legs. It ran between 2 legs and 4 legs, 2 legs and 4 legs. I turned around several times before I urinated on myself, because that's how scared I was, that I saw how it ran. And then I had Ed Romans on my show because he heard my show. He lives in British Columbia. On a farm which is very close to the forest, and every day he would take his dog out to a path in the woods to go walking, and one day he saw a Bigfoot, and he said he saw the same thing. It ran after him. It ran between 2 legs and 4 legs. I'm just curious what you saw.
Well, what I saw was it looked more like what people described as a Neanderthal. It was about maybe 7 to 8 foot in height, very muscular, big body, had hair, dark brown hair on it. It was kind of sparse in some places. On the chest, it was kind of sparse. The face itself looked more human than ape. It had a conical head, but the face itself had, it wasn't fully covered in hair. The skin was kind of dark in color. It was definitely a male because I could see the genitalia on it. And, when this thing came out of the bushes and it came out in the open and looked right at me, of course, I was freaking out. I didn't really know what I was seeing. This was, like I said, back in '81. So I really, I was into the paranormal, but it wasn't cryptids, basically, And there had been some stories about what they called the Sykesville Monster in that area about 7 to 8 years previous to that. But I never really gave much thought about it until I had my encounter. Then I started investigating it. And that's kind of where I started at with cryptids. But no, this thing, and like I said again, it looked more human than it did ape.
Well, I remember just glancing at when I saw its face. Like I always said, the whole head was not covered with hair. The forehead was not covered with hair, but the rest of it was. But it did look human in a lot of ways, and it did have a penis. I will say that. And that's like one of our guests last night said the same thing. If you look at a Bigfoot female, they got boobies. When they run, they wiggle. A lot of these people who, put up these videos of Bigfoot or called Bigfoot, you can tell right off the bat they're fake because they're wearing a costume. You don't see the muscles. You don't see the muscle move. You don't see a lot of these, things that, which really would identify it as being real.
Yeah, that is one thing that people fail to say, that when you see this thing in person, you do see the musculature moving in the back, in the legs, in the buttocks area. It does move. What I saw was definitely what people call Bigfoot. Now, I'm sure that's what it was, but then again, when you go back and think about it, you really not sure what you saw, but you think that's what it was. So,
well, when I look back at it, Lon, I look at it wasn't human. It wasn't a hairy man. I don't know what it is or was.
Right.
But I can tell you this way. When we got back to the car, it or its mate or companion was right there at the tree line, 25, 30 feet away from the car. And it was bending a tree over, like about a 4 or 5 inch tree, like nothing. And I can tell you, we were early June up in the Canadian Rockies, and it was still snow on sides of the road in places. It was cold. The smell was so pungent. I can still taste it when I think about it. It burnt my throat. I could taste it. That's how pungent it was. I'd never smelled anything that bad in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are people that do describe a garbage-like smell or a rotten meat-like smell. I did get some odor detection that actually reminded me of fox urine, something to that degree. Now I was about 40, I don't know, about 30 or 40 yards away from it, but I did get a real good look at it. One thing it did do as well was making a ticking sound, which I figured out later that it was gnashing its teeth for some reason. But it was very audible to me. So, yeah, like I said, when it came out of the bushes and stood several seconds looking at me, it just turned on a dime and walked up into the woods. Walked very briskly up into the woods.
You were lucky. Now, James, we only got like a few more minutes with Lon. Why don't you go ahead and ask him a couple, take the next couple minutes and ask him some questions.
Yeah, Lon, I don't know how close it is in your area, but not too long ago in Pennsylvania, they found a bunch of giant bones, and they kind of hushed them up. What did you hear or anything about that?
Honestly, I haven't heard anything about that. I really haven't.
And how about any other reports of giants? Because sometimes there's reports of those, and I know they try to cover that up real quick for some reason. Any reports on that?
Not really. You hear a lot of things. I don't know. That's a phenomena. It's interesting, but until there's more scientific proof, solid scientific proof, I'm going to leave it open because I really hasn't been proven to me that any evidence has really been found.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of people, obviously they're out looking for tracks or whatever. What would be your best advice for somebody that wants to collect evidence, maybe DNA or whatever? What should they take with them? What should they look for?
Well, I'd say the first thing is, to look for tracks. If you see something interesting and you're able to maybe cast it, at least get a photograph of it as detailed as possible. Always keep some small plastic bags with you for evidence. There's a lot of hair out there. Most people can recognize deer hair, but if it's something other than that, you can, you can collect it as best as possible without any DNA transference by using some type of tweezers or another implement to put it in the bag. I don't necessarily prescribe people taking scat samples because, quite frankly, most of the people that I've talked to that do DNA analysis do get tired of scat samples coming their way all the time. It's hard to really prove much of anything with that anyway. But, if you're going to be out into a specific area or if it's someplace on property that you're acquainted with or that you own, I would definitely put some type of trail cams up.
Right.
And to check them regularly to see what shows up. I don't know if these beings are able to detect these trail cams. I would suggest that if you do put it up, just don't put it on some tree that's out in the wide open. Kind of camouflage it somehow. But there are a few things you can do. If it's to the point where you're going to go and sit in a tree stand for hours at a time and maybe watch an area that you think is a good animal trail or game trail, I would suggest to watch those areas, especially if you think there is Bigfoot activity along it. That may be a good opportunity for you to be able to see something.
These are all good points. Also, do you think they get up into the trees and maybe a lot of people just walk under them, don't even know?
Oh, I think it's possible. I really do. I have talked to people who swear they saw these things up in the trees, and they're just not juvenile Bigfoot. They're fairly good-sized beings. I think they are strong enough and have the agility to get up in certain trees.
Right. I do, too. I've often wondered that. And we've talked, me and Gary, about getting DNA instead of maybe casting these tracks. Maybe try to get hair or flesh samples
now,
out
James,
of them for DNA.
I got to jump in. Our time is up here. Lon, boy, I don't know why I keep trying to call you some other name. Why don't you tell people how they can find you and, last two books, how they can, get them and what they are?
Well, you can go to my website, my blog at phantomsandmonsters.com. You can sign up for the free daily newsletter. My books can be found on Amazon. My last two books are Mothman Dynasty, Chicago's Winged Humanoids, and my most recent book is Alien Disclosure, Experiences of Exposed Reality, and I'm currently working on a Flying Cryptid book as well. Just go to Amazon, put my name, Lon Strickler, in the search, and it should come up. And I also do a radio show live and then a podcast each Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern on Paranormal King Radio Network at paranormalking.com.
Oh, boy. I just don't see how you got all this time, Lon. I like I said, myself, I spend 12 hours a day, and I tell you, I'm pulling what hair I have left out. Again, you'll be on my show later this month with